What's up, YouTube? It's your boy. Hello.
You want to do it again?
Yeah.
Hello!
Hi.
Today we're talking about our trans identities and our queerness and how they affect polyamory, or our polyamorous relationships. What is gender?
What is gender?
Who is gender?
Who is gender? How is gender?
Those are all.
Where is gender?
I guess all of these are valid questions.
All these questions and more will be answered.
To start explaining the concept of transness, you really have to understand the concept of sex versus gender. So sex is assigned at birth, usually, based on the appearance of the genitalia. A lot of people think that it's based on like chromosomes or whatever, but people don't actually test their chromosomes.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of different versions besides XX and XY, which people are most often familiar with.
Gender is more of how you feel. There's a lot of gender identity versus gender expression type things, where it's the identity is how you feel, how you perceive your own gender, and expression is how you present that gender to the world.
Yes. So, for like an example, just because a trans guy identifies as a guy doesn't mean they have to like dress completely masculine all the time, or they can also wear dresses or do whatever else they want.
Do things that are typically feminine.
Yes. Because femininity and masculinity are also social constructs that we are taught from an early age, and so you have to kind of figure out where you fit in, because we all have all those gender stereotypes that we all constantly battle against, or roll with, depending on if you're comfortable. So, despite it being the LGBT community, and lesbian, bisexual, and gay are all sexualities, trans T is not a sexual orientation. It is, of course, involves gender identity. It's just kind of grouped in. Gender is how you feel, whereas sexuality is more of who you're attracted to, and yeah. So, transitioning is different for everyone. Transitioning is, well, for us specifically, as trans guys, we were assigned female at birth, or AFAB as most people call it, and we began transitioning into the more male role a while ago.
Yeah.
And we both had very different experiences, just because you started transitioning in high school,
Yes.
whereas I started transitioning in college, and so there's a big difference between those two experiences, which of course all of them are very different, because there's just a lot of variability in what you can and can't, or like what you choose to do, not what you can do. Well, also what you can do as well, depending on where you are. But, do you want to start with your experience?
Sure.
Sure.
So I started transitioning when I was 16. I was a junior in high school. It was very weird. I grew up knowing that my parents would be accepting of me. They've always been very open-minded and loving and very clear on the fact that I was free to be whoever I wanted to be. But even with parents like that, I was still very afraid to come out, because it's
Scary.
It's a scary thing to come to terms with, even just personally. It was a lot of questioning involved. I had a lot of anxiety about it, a lot of fear. Just because it was this big thing, and I was like, hey, if I do this, I'm going to have to do this. I remember picking my name was a hard thing. I had a journal, and I just wrote down names in it. I just had a book of names, because I was just trying to find a name that I felt worked for me.
Was there like a second, or like a runner-up, or one you were trying to decide between?
Yes, I wanted Liam.
Everyone goes for Liam.
Well, my mom also wouldn't let me.
Oh.
Because her best friend had a kid named Liam.
Oh, yeah, that makes sense.
So, coming out to my family was another thing. Obviously they were so supportive, and they cared about me, and they loved me, but my little brother, when I told him, I was like, hey, I want to be a guy now. I had to phrase it in a specific way just to get through to him so he'd understand.
Because he's younger than you.
Yeah, but he looked at me, he was like, but girls are more flexible. I was like, okay, good point. I'll take that into consideration.
But
like, I want to be a boy now, which isn't exactly how it is. That's not.
I mean, yeah, but
But that's just how I had to phrase it.
I mean, it worked.
It worked. He got it. He got the gist.
He got the gist.
And he started calling me by my correct name and everything, which was very surprising. I thought it'd be a lot more difficult for him. But I picked Caleb because when I was 7, I remember going, if I were a boy, my name would be Caleb.
Oh, that would have been really easy instead of writing down all those names.
Well, no, that is what happened. So I ended up picking the name that I picked when I was young.
Makes sense.
So, like, actually, the crazy thing is, I technically started transitioning in, like, 5th grade. I came out to my class. I was like, I'm a boy.
Ouch.
And everyone was like, no, you're not. I was like, I'm a boy. I'm supposed to be a boy.
Oh, that's so cute.
And then I kind of got bullied back into,
Yeah.
like, I started being super feminine and stuff like that because I couldn't.
Elementary school kids suck.
Yeah. But I've, like, known since a very early age, which you don't have to, but just for me, personally, I have. So it wasn't exactly a shock to my peers when I ended up coming out because I'd had the same, I'd been in the same school system my whole life, so people kind of saw it coming. When I did eventually end up coming out, it was very hard. I had to email my teachers. My counselor set up a meeting with everyone to talk about it. We had to figure out what to do with bathrooms, so I ended up just using the staff bathrooms that were gender neutral, which sucked because there was only one pair in the entire school, so no matter where I was, I had to run all the way there to go to the bathroom. Kids weren't very nice about it, just because it's high school. I had my set group of people that I knew cared about me and valued me and respected me as kind of all I needed because, yeah, people were mean and would call me the wrong name on purpose and laugh at me and stuff like that, but I knew who I was and I know who I am.
Right.
And it was something that I don't regret doing at all in high school. I'm very glad that I did it when I did it. Because at the end of senior year, a lot of my peers actually started turning around and being nice to me and calling me by my name and stuff like that, which meant a lot more to me than they probably realized. One thing that sucked is at graduation, they had to say my legal name. They said my legal name with my legal middle name. Because my legal name on its own is gender neutral. So gender neutral name, it doesn't matter. But my middle name is a very feminine name. So when they called my name out at graduation, all my friends yelled Caleb really loudly.
Oh, that's so cute.
Yeah, it was, yeah. So transitioning to high school is fucking weird. Teachers don't know how to act around you. I had a math teacher who accidentally called me she once and then started panicking in front of the room. He was like, I was like, calm down, it's okay.
Like, breathe. Breathe.
Yeah, like, teachers don't know how to act. It's just funny. It was a very weird time. I had some teachers, even, that were mean to me about it. I had teachers that would refuse to call me by my name. Another big thing was testosterone, starting testosterone in high school.
That's wild.
Also crazy. Luckily, I had one of my friends started transitioning before me. He was the first trans guy to come out at the school and start transitioning. I was the second. So they kind of had a path. He was a year above me. But he helped me through it a lot. It was very nice to have someone to look up to, and like someone that kind of paved the way, helped guide me through it a little bit, because if I was already scared to death.
Oh, right.
And not having to do it on my own was wonderful.
Yeah, you can't imagine actually transitioning in high school. Not like medically.
Yeah, it was crazy. Because these people knew me as a girl my whole life until I was 16.
Yeah.
And then they saw me transitioning, and it's like they knew what was going on. Like, they knew what was happening, and it sucked
So weird.
for it to be such a public thing that everyone knew. Everyone in my area knew. But there were also some like small, really nice moments about it where in my neighborhood we'd put up a sign with the names of the people graduating, and they put Caleb, and no one even told them to. They just did.
Oh.
Like there were just same thing with the yearbook. They just put Caleb. Like there were some really nice moments to it that just made you feel really, really great. It's gender euphoria. Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was crazy time. But I'm glad that I did it when I did it, because it shaped me to who I am, and it's given me a path. And I feel like even though it was really hard, it's less hard now, because like
Right.
I don't care as much what people think about me, because I went through having a lot of people talk about me all the time and say things about me. Like all the girls, because I used to play softball, all the girls on the team after I quit to transition were not pleased because I was really good. Like I was the star player, so when I quit and became a guy, everyone was pissed at me and refused to call me the right name and stuff. My softball coach, he was one of my teachers my junior year, so I told him, I was like, hey, look, I'm transitioning. He was like, that means you can't play next year. I was like, yeah, I know. And it's like, it's the least of my concerns right now. No, he was incredible. He was so supportive and so nice, and just
Aw.
even when I quit, like he was so supportive of me. But he was like, oh, do you want me to make an announcement? I was like, nah. I was like, I'm good. Just call me Caleb. They'll eventually catch on.
No.
Yeah. But that's pretty much what my experience was. I had a little kid, because I did theater. There was a group of middle schoolers visiting to see our show, and there was this little trans kid there, and when he found out that I was trans, he like just started crying because he got to see someone like do it.
That's so cute.
Yeah, so it's very interesting. I was definitely the first trans person that most people in my high school met. So I was very open to questions and stuff, and I would let even like insensitive ones, I'd be like, okay, look, I know you don't know any better. I'll educate you a little bit.
Just don't ask anyone else this.
Yeah, basically. And it was a lot of me having to educate a bunch of people on just how to go about things.
I also started coming out in high school. Yeah. It was my junior year, but I went to the same high school for all of it. I moved in the middle of 8th grade to like the high school that I would stay at or whatever. And I came out to my yearbook class and I was like, hey, my name's Jace, I'm a boy now. And they were like, what? But not like overly. They asked questions. And then my teacher, which I had forever and I absolutely adored her, she had me talk after class and she was like, okay, what's happening? And I was like, this is my name now. These are my pronouns now. She was like, I'll try. I was like, all right. I was like, it's Augusta. I'll try. And she was just like, she was a little cautious about like hormone kind of things, because she was just like, do you plan on doing that in the future? And I was like, oh, probably. And she was like, well, that can really like mess up your system if you don't do it right and that kind of thing. It was more of the concern about like she had seen like her mom had to have like external hormones, and so that was like her concern about it, which was super sweet. It wasn't the fact that I wanted to be a boy. It was like the fact that it could have a negative effect, possibly, which, you know, who knows what hormones actually do.
Honestly, there's so little studies.
Who knows? But so I came out to my mom similarly that year, but then I actually ended up coming out to my family in 2015 after I graduated and went off to college. Because after I had like gone off to school, because I was going to school like 3 hours away from where I went to high school and where my parents lived, I lived completely as male, and it was great. I was like around the same people all the time because we were in a specific like block it was called art block, and so we all had all the same classes, and they were all super chill, and like they were all fairly knowledgeable, and if not, they asked questions, which I've also never had a problem answering people's questions. I didn't start medically transitioning, like hormones and stuff, until June of 2016.
I started June of 2017.
Weird. You started in June too, didn't you? Lucas started in June too.
Interesting.
And I mean, like, it was different. I had a different support because, like, I wasn't in high school. I wasn't around as many people. I was around Rocky, and I was around school people. Let's see. June of 2016 would be after my freshman year of college. So, like, at that point, I was going to school in the city, and so it was vastly different than school in the middle of nowhere.
Yeah.
Which was that school. But so people were supportive. I did find out that my undergrad is in psychology, and I did find that the psychology 1101 class and like the human sexuality class were using highly outdated information. My psych 1101 class, they didn't spend more than like 15 minutes on the gender and sexuality chapter, and like it was completely wrong. Didn't mention trans people at all.
Yikes.
Just mentioned like androgyny as a gender, and I was like, and so I went down to her and I was like, hey, yo, this is wrong.
Yeah.
And she was like, oh, okay. And so then I wrote her an extra credit paper with a glossary. And then my human sexuality professor was a mess. He was so scattered everywhere. And so I ended up, I was like, hey, by the way, because we did like trans identities and stuff, like the second or third class. And I was like, hey, if you want like a trans person to talk, I'm here anyway. So my 10-minute talk turned into an hour and 15-minute lecture about like transness and poly and all sorts of stuff, and I was just like, hey, if you have questions, this is the time to ask, because not all trans people want to answer all these questions. You shouldn't ask these questions to all these people, like, because some people don't want to answer how they have sex.
That's completely fair. Like, some people, that is their information.
Yes. And like asking what they plan to do like medically transitioning wise, or like when you're going to get the surgery. Don't do that. Don't do that.
Unless they specifically are like, ask me anything.
And then you're like, okay.
But don't just go up to anyone and do that.
If you wouldn't ask like some other like random cis person or non-trans person a question, don't ask a trans person the same question.
Yeah.
If you wouldn't walk up to somebody and be like, hey, when are you gonna get that removed?
Yeah.
Don't ask that question of another person. But overall, it was a good experience. I had to figure a lot of things out for myself outside of school. Not necessarily with family support until later along the line, but like I had to figure it out, and I wouldn't change it. It's like shaped who I am and shaped who I can help. I was the first trans person to come out at my school, so
yeah,
I'm on the same level. They were like, I don't know what to do with you. Like, yeah, to be fair, I'm only out to like half the school at that point, so I just kind of rode with it. But I had super supportive teachers, and then I had really unsupportive teachers.
Yeah.
College, I had no problem, except for that one TA that was awful. So, on that note, advocate for yourself. So, especially in high school, it's a little more complicated, but especially in college, if you get to the point where you have a teacher or a TA or whoever that will not call you by the right name or the right pronouns or harasses you for gender or anything, you are absolutely welcome to go report that as a Title IX problem, and they will address it and they will investigate it, and they possibly will press charges against the person. I was not aware of that until they were like, yeah, we'll determine if we want to press charges. And I was like, you what? I just want you to get her to call me by the right name. That was all I wanted. But it's a super helpful resource, and you should always have people that are on campus or wherever that you should be able to talk to. I know that's a little more difficult in rural areas, but Yeah. Look for safe zone stickers.
Yes.
Safe zone stickers are great.
So basically, coming out and transitioning and all that stuff is very personal. It's going to vary person to person. Like, our experiences were incredibly different. I had my other friend who also transitioned in high school, had a different experience than I did. Like, every person is going to have a different way that they go about things.
Oh, yeah.
And that's perfectly fine. Like, it doesn't matter how you go about it as long as you're doing what's best for you and, like you said, advocating for yourself.
Which, of course, can be hard.
Yeah,
It's so hard to advocate for yourself, especially if you don't necessarily know, like, what the resources are around you.
Mhm.
Or, depending on, like, a variety of different factors, you might not have access to the information that you need or the healthcare that you want, because there's the intersectionality of different, like, minority identities. I know there's a lot of words in there, but so trans people of color might have a harder time getting hormones, or of course people in rural areas might have a difficult time doing anything.
Yeah.
Finding counseling that is gender affirmative can be very difficult, especially depending on where you live.
Yes.
Like in the South, you can make a whole video on being trans
Being
in the
trans
South.
in the South.
There's a lot of things that just kind of interplay into it, and you just kind of have to figure it out, and everything's different for everybody.
Yep. Just, you do you. If you need advice, we're here.
Alright, so if you've enjoyed this video or find any of the information useful, or you want to find out more information, please subscribe, leave a like below, and also comment if you have any other questions or any other topics you'd like to see us do in the future. Just because we like input, and sometimes we run out of ideas.
Yeah.
I mean, you know. So, we will see you all next Tuesday.
Or Wednesday.
Or, Wednesday.
Whenever.
Whenever.
Bye.
Bye!